Welcome to another episode of Out from the Horrorbox. I'm your scary host, Dom, and in this episode, we get into some podcast updates, some news about aliens, UAPs, then we travel the world to find some strange encounters with humanoid beings. So, without further ado, let's grab us a bowl of all Scaries. Alright, so I wanted to start this episode off with some updates on why last month there was only one episode, and this month kind of seems like maybe there might not be. There's going to be episodes this month, for sure. Last month it was just like, man, like after that election, and I just was not feeling it the week after, and then it got kind of busy with work. It's been a little exhausting, getting. Work has gotten a little bit busier, just due to the holidays, and then of course Thanksgiving came up, and I was gonna put out an episode for Thanksgiving special, but same thing, just work got kind of out of hand, and just a little exhausting. And then I also noticed that most of the people were going to be reviewing the same exact thing I was going to be reviewing, so I decided, you know what, let's just skip it for this year. We'll do it next year. We'll talk about it next year. And then I've been saving up to get some new equipment to help with, the computer. As of right now, I have just a laptop, a monitor. I have the recording device, the mic. But I want to start getting into like live streaming, and I want to get into Twitch. Specifically, I was going to also start doing lives on TikTok once I got enough followers, because I have so close to enough. But as I don't know if you guys are aware of this, the news today, Friday, December 6th, is when I'm recording it. TikTok is going to be banned in the United States, so looks like I'm not going to be using that for much longer. Hopefully, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know if we open the app that day and just you're not allowed to do anything anymore, but it just seems like that's probably what's going to happen. I don't know. I don't know. We don't know. We just know that Circuit Court decided, that's constitutional for the United States government to just ban an app because of perceived foreign activities that intelligence or something, which is ridiculous. But also, I don't understand why, other social media sites are allowed to collect your data and do with it what they want, sell it off, whatever, use it to target ads. And this, particular social media site, actually, kind of brings people together, helps to reach an audience that, that you want to interact with specifically, but apparently that's too much for the government. So I don't know. That's going to be a little bit ridiculous. But anyways, getting back to, I've been wanting to upgrade my laptop to a Mac Mini, and I'm going to be doing that here shortly. Probably either this coming up this the end of this week, or probably maybe the next time I get paid again. I want to get that before the next year, because I already know with certain tariffs that are going to be put into place, who knows how much like this stuff could go up, this equipment can go up again. Luckily, I have a really nice cinema camera. I have some really nice equipment, and I want to get this Mac Mini to help with processing, to help because the battery on this laptop is not doing well. It hasn't been doing well for well over a year. I've been meaning to get it either switched out, or just I want to get a new laptop, or I wanted to get a Mac Mini, something to upgrade to. So that's also another thing that's kind of held me back from, start streaming, because also I just don't want this to die on me when I'm like in the middle of streaming, because it is very unpredictable with the battery. It heats up very fast. Sometimes with recording, that too, like the battery will drain pretty fast. I noticed that I think it was this particular outlet that also too was draining the battery really, or not like it wasn't. I guess it wasn't recharging the battery as fast as it was draining the battery. I don't know, but it's been kind of steady for now, but it's still like not particularly the best, and so I don't want to be streaming for hours and then everything just shuts off. So yeah, if you guys are interested in watching me on Twitch, I'll be doing that probably. I'm gonna try and start getting that set up for next year, so it will be a little bit. So you don't have to worry about like trying to tune in just yet, because I'm gonna do I think a couple more episodes this month, and then one for the new year, and then I'm gonna take a break in January, just to make sure I can get everything. So I'll probably do that from now on, every January, especially because there's no really any new movies that come out. If they do, they're usually put there kind of to die off. Very rarely does a movie that comes out in January get remembered later. And so it'll give me some time. I'm probably going to take like the later part of January, maybe into the beginning of February. So I'll do an episode for the new year, and maybe another special episode. But then after that, I'll probably be taking a break for a bit, just to also like make sure I want to make sure I have an idea of what I want to record for next year, because I want to start branching out to other things besides just movies. Like I have been right now talking about Stephen King's novels. If you've been following those, I want to do some more horror for kids. I want to start like I said, for Twitch too, like also on YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel, so if you want to go to, I think it's Horrorbox Podcast, or is it out from I think it's Horrorbox Podcast on YouTube, and I'll start posting about that too. Right now I just started getting everything on there, so there's things on there right now that might not be on there, might be on there. I know it's been telling me that I need to redo some stuff. It says that I'm like not being demonetized yet because I don't have a big enough audience, but I think once I do, and it starts trying to monetize things will become demonetized. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of what it's been right now. It's just, like I said, it's just kind of work it's not been too demanding. It's just that I do a lot of physical work at my job. So by the time I come home, I kind of like take a nap or I crash out and then, I get up, and the remainder of my night, spent, trying to put these episodes together. And sometimes it's, I try and do it within a week. Sometimes I try to do 2 weeks. And I'm just hoping that, like, taking that time at the beginning of the year, like January into February, will help me to get things organized, get things ready. So maybe I can record a couple episodes, have things ready to go. That's what I tried to do this year. This year was all me trying to be more about, like, managing things and trying to get things out a lot quicker. That didn't really work out that well, especially with like I said, starting a new job, kind of like push things off the rail. But I'm getting back into things. Hopefully next year will be a little bit better, more streamlined, more consistent. Or if not consistent, like no, it should be more consistent. I'm not going to say not consistent. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for updates on the podcast. So hopefully I'll be able to have a faster RAM, faster, graphics card, just more storage too. Not the storage wasn't a big deal. I have a pretty good, what do you call it? External hard drive that stores everything really well. So that's not the problem. The problem, like I said, is just the battery, and I just don't want to take that chance of like starting to record things, starting to try and do things on Twitch, and then like this stuff just ends up shutting down, like because I just don't trust the battery. But for now, let us move on to some news.
This is the fucking news.
More recently, the United States government has kind of confirmed, and this has been like years in the making of them hearings and coming together and talking and publishing things and things. Finally, the Freedom of Information Act, going into effect of these years of these declassified, papers and stuff. They become more open on the subject of aliens, UFOs, extraterrestrials, what we call now UAPs. And, I have my own story, but I'm going to get into that a little bit after, and a little bit later. But, one thing that we've learned from a lot of this disclosure is that, like, we do have this technology that we've gotten from something somewhere, maybe. I think that some things are like we do have debris of things. I'm not sure exactly every little detail, every little thing, but things I've seen on TikTok, things that I've seen on Instagram, things that I've seen here and there on different places, YouTube. I hear that supposedly they're in the oceans too. These UAPs are coming out of the oceans, so maybe they're living under the oceans, but one thing is that I do know is that we're starting to see more and more like sightings of these things, so these UAPs, these UFOs, and there's a TikTok that just came out that was all over, like not all over my For You page, but it was coming up frequently on, because I have a private account and I have one for the podcast. It was coming up on both of them. But my friend actually sent it to me, and he was, the way it looked in the beginning looks like what we encountered something like this before, where I may have said this on the podcast before, but I'm just going to reiterate right here. We were picking up his cousin one day, and if you live in Arizona, or if you've been to Scottsdale, you know that it's off of Camelback. And if you're heading, and the mall, the Scottsdale Mall, Scottsdale Fashion, is on Camelback. His cousin was actually working there for a little time. This was years ago. Years and years. I mean, I had like a, not a flip phone, but it like slid up and it had like a whole like keypad on it. It wasn't a BlackBerry, but it was kind of like a BlackBerry. Oh man, I missed that phone. But anyways, we picked up his cousin. We were, it's just a normal night. Just hanging out. We were driving eastbound on Camelback. You pass Miller, and then there's just a couple of side streets, and then you get to, I think that's Hayden right there. Hayden's McClintock, which is, anyone who's in Arizona knows that Hayden and McClintock, they're the same street. But right there on that corner of Hayden and Camelback, there is a park, Hayden Park. And when we got to the light, we're stopped there. We're in the turning. We were good out. We were going straight. But there was a car next to us in the turning lane, to our left, right on our left side. And we're sitting there, kind of just chit chatting, whatever, being dumb little kids. But then, like, I looked over, and in the car next to us, they were looking up and pointing in the sky. So we start looking, and there's these lights, right? And there are these, like, yellowish, kind of orange lights that are just kind of up in the sky, and they're moving around. And I don't remember how many exactly. I want to say there was at least, like, 4 to, like, 6 lights. Just kind of, like, they were, like, at first they were kind of falling, but then they come back up. And then they kind of fall again, but then they zip back up. So we're like, shit, we gotta record this. So, the light turns green. So in the span of the light turning green, us driving forward, pulling into the park, and parking and getting out, and I pulled out my phone to start recording, the lights are gone. So within the span of maybe at the most 15 seconds, right? Because, you're getting to the light, turning in, and that, like, 15, 20 seconds. Let's just say it's like that long. I don't even think it was that long. I think it was a lot shorter than that. It wasn't that, like, because literally all you have to do is you drive forward, you turn to the left, there's a parking lot, you turn into there, and it's right there. You just park. Literally, you get out of the car, or getting out of the car, and I'm looking up to start recording on my phone, and they're all gone. They're just gone. And I was like, where did they go? Like, there's no sign of them anywhere. Like, it wasn't like, if a plane was coming by and, like, you weren't able to see it for a bit, and then, like, okay, now it's in, like, oh, look, it's right there. Okay, you see it, like, a couple seconds later. It's that side of the sky, like the right side of the sky now, instead of the left side. No, they were just all completely gone. They were kind of in the same general area, and it was like, so if they were in this area, like, what happened? Did they zoom off? Did they fall to the ground? Did they just take off? Like, what? We weren't sure what happened. We were so mystified by it because it was so quick that literally none of us saw them leave or depart or blink out or anything. We literally, in the time it took for getting through that light and parking, they were just gone. Like, we didn't see them zip off. We didn't see them, like, bleep out or whatever. It's so strange. And this TikTok video, man, it I don't know where in Arizona. It just said here in Arizona, and it looks similar, like the way that the lights were, like, kind of moving around each other. But then towards the end, it gets really crazy because, like, the lights start moving down towards, like, the horizon. And at first I thought it was a plane because I was like, the way that there's one big bright light and then 2 red lights kind of off to the sides, and I was like, that's got to be a plane because the way like, I've seen a plane coming, because their planes come over. My house is right under, like, the path of planes. You can constantly hear them going over and coming by, especially when they're really low. It gets kind of scary. But I've seen them come where it's like, oh, like, what is that? It's like, and then, like, it gets closer and it's like, oh, it's just an airplane. But no, this thing, like, whatever the lights are, if they're maybe other ships, and that's, like, the big bright light is the mothership, I have no idea. But then, like, lights start popping up further away from them, and then even out from the main light. And then as the light, like, the main light moves down, like, the other lights are staying kind of up in the sky, right? They're like more orangish, but this other light, moves down, and you can kind of make out, like, it looks like a craft, like a I guess like a saucer, like the traditional sense of what you would think a UFO would look like. and it's such a crazy video. I gotta repost it onto my TikTok, and I'll post it onto Threads. I'm gonna start going on to interacting on Threads more too, guys. So check out their Instagram also. Since TikTok's going away, I gotta start moving to these other social media sites and trying to, get people on there. But yeah, no, but once I hopefully you guys you'll go and check it out. But it's crazy. It's I just want to know where, and that's one thing too with any video from that says it's from here. I always try and look at the horizon and look at the city behind it, the streets, the buildings, and try and see if I can figure out where it is, because it just said Arizona, so I don't know if that meant here in the valley where I live near Phoenix, or maybe Tucson, or maybe it's up north in Flagstaff. It did look more like Tucson, southern Arizona, here. But who knows? It could be northern Arizona, like I said. Yeah, but man, you guys gotta check out this video. But like I said, there's been more videos coming day after day since they've been talking about it. Well, the government's been talking about it for well over a couple years now. So I don't know, maybe we'll get some more news about it. Maybe not. Over the centuries, man has looked up to the stars and wondered what exactly was out beyond the atmosphere. The heavens held celestial beings, the spirits of the dead, or the kingdom for the gods. But as with knowledge comes truth, and those things in space are planets, stars, moons, and still more unknowns. Scouring the internet for all things creepy, scary, or horrifying, I have found a great subreddit called Our Humanoid Encounters. I found a few posts about different sightings of UFOs and beings of unknown origin. I'm going to read these encounters and discuss them after each one. On the island of Puerto Rico, we start with a creature stomping through a field. We travel over to Zimbabwe to a school encounter, and come back to the U.S. to visit the Southwest to hear 3 different encounters. Come along with me as we look into these strange encounters. Our first humanoid encounter is called Chased by a Humanoid Creature. This happened back in 2009 in Puerto Rico. 4 friends and I were walking home from a basketball game in the suburbs that's near our neighborhood. It was around 8 p.m. and it was pretty dark. There were 2 ways to go into my neighborhood. The first one was the shortcut, which consisted of cutting through the middle of an abandoned paintball park in an open field. It'll take around 10 minutes to arrive to our homes. Second was the long way, which takes 25 to 30 minutes walking in a bright area surrounded by houses and endless illuminated roads that finish right on the entrance of the abandoned park, and then 5 minutes of walking in semi-illuminated areas. We took the shortcut like we did every time, but this time everything was quiet. No animal sounds. Abandoned dogs took shelter there. No car sounds from far, just pure silence. One of my friends decided to start talking about how much he could how cool it would be to play Ouija in the middle of the field as a joke. We tell him to shut up collectively because we were pretty scared. We all see the entrance of the park and we all start getting less stressed and start talking again. We were about 100 feet from the entrance when we all hear and feel stomps coming from behind us. But not regular stomps, but heavy stomps like an elephant or a bull running. We looked back and there was a strange-shaped creature with really dim red eyes. At first, it looked completely dark, but as it got closer, it was grayish and charging towards us. We collectively looked at each other and ran as fast as possible towards the entrance, and we managed to get out. While walking there, there's a part of the street that briefly overlooks the field, and we all looked to see if we could see anything, but all we all saw was dim red dots looking directly at us. We all went home and the next day tried to figure out what happened. 4 of the 5 of us came to confirm the story. Can confirm the story. Sadly, one of my friends passed away a couple of years ago. I also moved but have to travel every weekend through that area to visit my family. It still gives me the creeps going through there at night. Yeah, it would give me the creeps too. That's creepy, like seeing this like large thing just charging at you, and like the fact that not only it was the one friend, the main person telling the story, but it's like 4 other friends, and they all felt like the stomping, like, and they could feel it too. Like the fact that you could feel it is like crazier too. So like it was hitting solid ground, charging at them, whatever it was, this thing, and it's like, damn, that's crazy, man, crazy. Let's move on to our next encounter. The aerial school UFO incident. 30 years ago, just outside of Rua, Zimbabwe, 62 pupils at the aerial school age between 6 and 12 said that they saw one or more silver craft descend from the sky and land in a field near their school. Some of the children claimed that one or more creatures dressed in all black then approached and telepathically communicated to them a message with an environmental theme, frightening them and causing them to cry. The sightings at Ariel occurred at 10 a.m. on September 16, 1994, when pupils were outside on a mid-morning break. The adult faculty at the school were inside having a meeting at the time. The entire incident lasted about 15 minutes. When the children returned to the class, they told the teachers what they had seen, but were dismissed. When they returned home, they told their parents. Many of those parents came to the school the next day to discuss what had happened with the faculty. The sighting was reported on ZBC radio, from where Cynthia Hine learned about it. The BBC's correspondent in Zimbabwe, Tim Leach, visited the school on September 19th to film interviews with pupils and staff. After investigating this incident, Leach stated, "I could handle war zones, but I could not handle this." Hine visited the school on September 20th, 1994, and she interviewed some of the children and asked them to draw pictures of what they had seen. She reported that the children all told her the same story. That November, Harvard University professor of psychiatry and Pulitzer Prize-winning author John Mack visited the aerial school to interview witnesses. Throughout the 1990s, Mack had investigated UFO sightings and alien abduction phenomena. According to the interviews of Hine, Leach, and Mack, 62 children between the ages of 6 and 12 said that they had seen at least one UFO. One or more silver objects, usually described as discs, appeared in the sky. They then floated down to a field of brush and small trees just outside the school property. Between 1 and 4 creatures with big eyes and dressed all in black exited a craft and approached the children. At this point, many of the children ran, but some, mostly older pupils, stayed and watched the approach. According to Mack's interview, the creature or creatures then telepathically communicated to the children an environmental message before returning to the craft and flying away. According to Dunning, this telepathic message aspect of the story was not included in Hine or Leach's reports, only Mack's, although Hine reported it later. In Mack's interviews, one 5th grader tells how he was warned about something that's going to happen, and that pollution mustn't be. An 11-year-old girl told Mack, "I think they want people to know that we're actually making harm on this world, and we mustn't get too technological." One child said that he was told that the world would end because they're not taking care of the planet. The children were adamant that they had not seen a plane. High noted that the different cultural background of the children gave rise to different interpretations of what they had seen, but they did not all believe that they had seen extraterrestrials. She noted that some of the children thought the short beings looked more tokolocious, creatures of that were Tokoloshes, creatures of Shona and I'm gonna butcher this, Debili folklore. Now I heard about this a while ago, and there's actually a really good episode of Last Podcast on the Left. If you listen to them, check that episode out. I love it. It's a really good episode. Because it just goes into more detail about like what the kids saw and describes it a little bit better. They get into like what the Tokoloshes are, these little like beings, kind of like duendes. They're just like short little beings that that I think they like capture children and stuff. Kind of basically like any basic like fairy story or anything like that. But yeah, no, it's crazy because it's been 30 years since this happened. But like it's just one of those things where it's just like the perfect event of like the none of the adults were there. They were all in a meeting, and these kids just happened to be there, and they all say pretty much the same thing. I think here or there it might be just a little bit different, but it's all the same thing. These 1 to 4 creatures with big eyes dressed in black. They came, they talked about, like pollution and like the environment and this and that. And it's just crazy that like, and I think they came back to them years later. They got them together, like at least like a group of them. And they still remembered these things coming, I guess that's what you call them, these beings coming out and talking to them and saying these things to them. It's just creepy. It's just like it's just like this could happen at any point, any time. Like when something's happening, something could come down like that and just change everything, change all history, and just crazy. And like it's like the BBC did a whole, or I'm not sure if it was the BBC. I know that there's a documentary on it too, so go check that out too. But it's just one of those things. It's like if they are faking, then I don't know how they got together and decided, like we're gonna say that this happened, and even said like some of them left, some of them fled because they were so scared, like the younger kids. So like, what did they see? What did they actually see? What was it? Right? Man, it's just like, see, like these are the things where it's like, that gets me like, man, I want to know what happened. I want to know like more about this. I want to know, like, I want to talk to these people, and the fact that like that they're willing to talk about it too. Like sometimes some people aren't, and I feel like that makes it a little bit more credible when you're like, I don't want to talk about it. Like it was so disturbing, and like you said, some of them ran away. They just didn't want to deal with it. Our next encounter is called Lonnie Zamora Incident. On April 24th, 1964, near Socorro, New Mexico, Socorro police officer Lonnie Zamora claimed he saw 2 people beside a shiny object that later rose into the air, accompanied by a roaring blue and orange flame. Zamora's claims were subject to attention from news media, UFO investigators and UFO organizations, and the U.S. Air Force's Project Blue Book listed the case as unknown. Conventional explanations of Zamora's claims include a lunar lander test by White Sands Missile Range and a hoax by New Mexico Tech students. Although, we'll get into why I'm not sure that hoax. Let's get into it. At approximately 5:45 p.m., Socorro Police radio dispatcher Nep Lopez received a radio call from Sergeant Lonnie Zamora, reporting a possible motor vehicle accident. Zamora advised Lopez that he would be checking the car down in the arroyo. Shortly after, Lopez received another radio call from Zamora asking Lopez to look out of the window to see if he could see an object. When Lopez asked Zamora to describe it, Zamora said it looks like a balloon and requested New Mexico State Police Sergeant Chavez meet him at his location. When Chavez arrived, he asked Zamora what the trouble was. Zamora led him to examine some burning brush. When other police officers arrived, they noted patches of smoldering grass and brush. Zamora told authorities he was pursuing a speeding car south of Socorro, New Mexico, when he heard a roar and saw a flame in the sky to the southwest, some distance away, possibly a half mile or a mile. Believing local dynamite shack may have exploded, Zamora said he discontinued the pursuit and investigated the potential explosion. Zamora claimed to have observed a shiny object to south about 150 to 200 yards, 450 to 600 feet, that he initially believed to be an overturned white car up on radiator or trunk. The object was like aluminum. It was whitish against the mesa background, but not chrome. And it was shaped like a letter O. Zamora claimed that to briefly observe two people in white overalls besides the object, who he later described as normal in shape, but possibly were small adults or large kids. Zamora claimed to hear a roar and see a blue and orange flame under the object, which then rose and quickly moved away. Zamora's claims were investigated by Project Blue Book and ufologists and have been reported in the popular press. Several explanations have been presented. UFO skeptic Stuart Campbell has suggested that everything seen and heard by Zamora and fellow witness was almost certainly a mirage of the star Canopus. It has also been suggested Zamora witnessed the testing of a lunar landing device by personnel from the White Sands Missile Range. Despite a federal investigation of the incident failing to reach any explanation, skeptic Robert Schaefer suggests that the incident was a hoax perpetrated by students at the New Mexico Tech. Then president of New Mexico Tech, Sterling Colgate, supported this theory and wrote that the object observed by Zamora was a candle in a balloon, not sophisticated. Skeptic Philip K. Klass, who visited Socorro several years after the incident, claimed that the entire event was part of a conspiracy plot by the municipal government to increase tourism. Honestly, though, I don't know if I buy all that hoax-ish stuff. The fact that Project Blue Book looked into and classified as an unknown is kind of crazy, honestly, to me. They don't usually, I don't think they normally do that with most things. They usually have an explanation, or they, like I said, there's those rare ones where it's like, yep, this is out of our pay grade, we don't know what this is. But the fact that, like, it left, like, physical evidence, like the bush was burning. I know when they finally got photos of the area, like, you can see where the bush was burned. And it's just crazy, like, to see, or to hear this story, because it's just like, it happened so long ago, but it just feels so, like, real. Like, why would he lie about this, right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, why would you just be in the middle of nowhere, you know, you're following this car, the speeding, you know, and you stop for what? Because you think, oh, maybe, okay, you know, it's something that could be potentially dangerous, you know, the explosion at like a dynamite shack, right? Okay, fair enough. But then, like, why make up the rest of it, right? Why say that you saw this? Why not just say, like, oh, I mistook this for that? Bam. That's what the burning was there. No, but, like, I think he even drew it out, and it's just like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. I didn't know that it looked like that. And it's just like, ugh. I heard this one too a while back, and it just always stuck with me because it's just like, it just sounds to me, when it's like an officer, like a police officer, like, why, like, okay, you one, like, when you start saying all this stuff and you're reporting it and you're trying to get people to look in the sky and stuff, like, you sound crazy. You sound really crazy. So for the fact that, like, he just, like, stuck with the story and was like, I'm not crazy, guys. I saw this thing. I saw them. That's when it's like, okay, maybe it is something. What is it? And now our next tale is Pale Humanoid in Arizona. My friends and I saw one the night that I'm writing this, in later hours of November 30th and early morning of December 1st, 2024. We live in southern Arizona, and we are all staying the night one friend's house for a birthday party. Her house is known between all of us as the haunted house, since we're always experiencing weird things there. But this time, right after the sun had set, we were sitting on the porch on the backyard when one of us yelled and pointed at the chest-high brick fence, saying that she just saw a bald white human head poke itself over the fence. Two of us immediately ran over and looked over the fence to see nothing. We laughed that off, but it was the first sighting of the night. We hung out outside a little longer until we decided to check over the fence again. While we were doing so, we heard scattering on the outside of the fence, out of view. We joked about it and just went inside instead. Skip to a while later, we went outside again, and almost right away, someone saw a head pop up around another fence. Again, we all thought it was nothing, but the more of us stared, seeing a head, hands, and part of it back. At that point, we were scared as hell and started going back inside when one friend stayed back and scared the living shit out of us. But she was just standing and looking. We stayed there for a while. Now, with one friend holding a broom, they lost their broom privileges soon after. And we kept seeing small things of white and some of the same things from before. Our other friends previously inside came out again, scaring the shit out of us. And we all started talking about things we saw and what it could be when we kept seeing things. And eventually 2 people heard a growling. And it was very clear they both weren't faking. And we all ran inside and started panicking, trying to reason with the fact that there was a skinny, bald white man crawling outside. We eventually found this, and thank goodness, because I believe it or not, made us all feel much better. This was our story, believe it or not. And, I mean, that's kind of chilling. I mean, there's, like, tons of haunted houses here in Arizona they can be haunted from. I mean, like, what would a pale humanoid being like that be doing there? Maybe it's a residual haunting, or maybe it's like whoever it is, needs to move on for some reason, needs to, I don't know, like, accomplish something that it was set out to do, or maybe it's just haunting people. It's just stuck on the land there. That's why it keeps just poking its head and it's like out. Yeah, I don't know. This one's kind of creepy too. Like, to be honest, like I would just be like, guys, let's just go back inside. Like, because I mean, if you're gonna say it's not paranormal and it's not like just some ghost maybe or interdimensional being or something like that, right? And it's just some guy fucking around with you. It's still some crazy bald white guy. That's the scariest thing of all, right? He probably has a gun too. That's scary right there. So you never know. Never know. And now moving on to our last story. Late 90s, Red Bluff, California, humanoid encounter. I'm telling the story secondhand on behalf of the person who experienced it. I was told the story in 2012 and it has always stuck with me. Now that I've recently discovered this subreddit, I wanted to share this encounter with others. The gentleman who imparted the story to me did so after a lengthy evening of enjoying beers at the fire pit in the backyard of his, at the time, Redding, California home. He recounted the time when he was a teenager living in a nearby town called Red Bluff. He had a girlfriend who lived within walking distance of his home, and he used to sneak out and head to her house in the middle of the night. He recalled how the road he would walk to her place spanned a rural distance before reaching her neighborhood. On one occasion, he was making his way back home early in the morning after visiting his girlfriend. It was still very much nighttime as he was walking along the road. At this particular section, the road passed through the long dark section of rural span. only to be momentarily lit by the infrequent passing of car headlights. It was dark and quiet as he walked when he noticed the sound of what must have been footsteps following behind him. He was immediately made uncomfortable. It was not uncommon for drug dealers, derelicts, and transients to be wandering at this time of night in this area. These would be characters you would certainly not want anything to do with at this time of night, at this location. He increased his pace, yet the footsteps seemed to remain just as assuredly behind him as before. His discomfort began to elevate to panic. Suddenly, a car was heading toward him on the desolate road. He knew as the headlights passed, he would have a chance to see who was following him. The moment came, and he turned to see what this crackhead wandering in the night might look like. But what he saw was nothing of the sort. He explained to me what he could only describe as what looked like a large Great Dane walking upright on its hind legs. I believe he did say it looked like the creature had a snout. He said the skin looked gray, pale and hairless, and was very skinny to the point where you could see its skeleton underneath. The most memorable detail he kept recalling, though, was the way in which the rib cage protruded, just like that of a Great Dane. The rest of the story is short. What he saw terrified him, and he started sprinting and didn't stop until he reached the nearest lit area he could find, which was a random parking lot. He stood there terrified until the sun came up, walked the rest of the way home, and never went down that road at night again. So what do you think it was? I mean, honestly, maybe it was a Great Dane walking on its hind legs. I mean, I know some dogs can walk on their hind legs. Maybe it was some kind of skin changer or something. If it was in California, though, see, like, that's not... Skinwalkers aren't all over America. That's something that I think misinformation has led people to believe that they are just like that, like the monolith of Native American, that they all have the same legends, which they don't. They all do. Like Wendigos are like up north. What's it called? Skinwalkers are something particular to the Apache, Navajos. That's part of their reservation. Their nation is here in Arizona, so that's why you could probably see them here in Arizona. But I don't know. That's so creepy though. Like a dogman sighting like this, and dogmen are different from werewolves. Like this isn't a werewolf. It's a dogman. But yeah, no. Like it's just imagine like this thing. That because I have seen dogs like on TikTok where they're walking on their hind legs. It's really weird to see them walking on their hind legs like that because it's just unnatural to see them like that. But if it's part human or something, then that's just so weird. Encounters with UFOs and unknown beings have happened throughout history. What makes one area more susceptible to these encounters than any other? Are people seeing exactly what they are reporting? Could these all have rational explanations? Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. There are multiple sides to every story, and even if the explanation is something mundane, there's so many things out there that we still don't know and will remain unknown. So remember to keep your eyes open and check every shadow. Got any of your own updates? Have you run into any strange humanoids? Have you seen any lights in the sky? I know, like I said, I have. I have other stories too of other lights that I've seen. We want to thank you all for listening, and if you like what you hear, please subscribe to get every new episode downloaded. Do you have any personal or fictional, paranormal, supernatural, or unexplainable stories? We love to read them on the podcast. Please send your stories, recommendations, or anything else to horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to show more support, you can follow our socials on Instagram, Threads, or TikTok at Horrorbox Podcast. Also, you can buy me a coffee at coffee.com/horrorboxpodcast. It really helps out. Until next time, check the skies. This is Dom, signing off from the Horrorbox.